Welcome. I'm Robert Green. I'm your host for this episode of Momentum. Very happy to have with us Dr. LaShan Simpson from Biomedical Engineering. Dr. Simpson's an associate professor, has been at the Bagley College of Engineering for almost 10 years, I think.
Yeah.
Dr. Simpson, welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Happy to have you here. I noticed that you come to us from Clemson University. Clemson's special to me. I grew up not too far north of there before I came to Mississippi State.
Oh, cool.
What attracted you to Mississippi State to come here and join our faculty?
For me, it felt like home, and I hear a lot of our students say the same thing. When I was coming, Dr. Jerry Gilbert was provost, and he made sure to tell me the similarities between Mississippi State and Clemson, and so it felt like I was coming home.
Okay, good. We're glad you did. I know you've been very active and very productive here, very engaged with recruiting and students, but you're also interested in your research and cardiovascular and heart. So can you tell us a little bit about that research, what you're doing, and why is it interesting to you?
Yeah, so I work with cardiovascular disease, in particular vascular calcification. And we study smooth muscle cells and how they change their phenotype under disease conditions. For instance, high blood pressure and people with kidney disease because their body can't metabolize all the different salts and minerals that's in the bloodstream. Inspiration started in grad school, so that was my graduate advisor's, his work. And then as I got more into it, I really love science and that you never get an answer. And so the more I worked with it, the more questions I had, and I just stayed in the field.
Well, I know that's certainly an important topic, particularly for Mississippi, where we have so much issues with cardiovascular, so many cardiovascular issues. So hopefully that will come about. So clearly you became a PhD. One of the questions we often have from our students is they don't know what they want to do in graduate school. When did you first learn you wanted to pursue graduate studies and become a faculty member?
Good question. I get that from students a lot. You know, what do I do in graduate school? What is graduate school? And I like to share my story with them because I often say that I stumbled into it. I was doing research as an undergrad in bioengineering at Clemson, and I enjoyed it there. I enjoyed the work. One of my advisors, said, hey, you should stay for a master's. So I, started a master's program, and I was like, well, this is fun. Maybe I'll stay for a PhD. So I won't say that I started with the intent of getting a PhD, but I fell in love with it and just continued. And I always try to advise students to, pick something that, piques their interest and see if you like it.
I think that's good advice, and I think that's true of a lot of us. We don't really know what we want to do when we start as an undergrad. What advice would you give students who are coming here today in terms of trying to keep their options open, and what steps they need to make now as undergrads particularly, so that maybe they can find out more about graduate school?
First and foremost, be open. Try everything. I was definitely one of those people. I did, student government and, all different student activities. Also, I always try to push students toward research. Some are like, well, I don't know what that means. Try it. You never know. So for me, I would just say for students to keep trying. Always say that your next step should open the door for more opportunities. So, if you've tried one thing, try something different, because you never know if you'll like it, and you never know what opportunities can come from it.
That's true. So for students who are coming in, how would you recommend they look into getting involved in research with faculty? I know a lot of times they think we're unapproachable and scary people, and they don't realize we're not. We're just like their moms and mothers and fathers. So what advice do you have? How could they go about getting in touch and contacting the best way to approach one of their faculty members to find out what they're doing and maybe start working with them in their research lab?
Good question. So first of all, get on the websites and just, look around, look at the different departments. Each faculty will have their profile to talk about their research that they're doing. And then also the university has, as a whole, has a website that kind of collects all undergrad research opportunities there. And then just send an email. You find someone you're interested in their research, send them an email. If you don't get a response at first, email them again. It's okay. And then also Google. When all else fails, just Google, type in research, heart disease, Mississippi State, see what comes up.
I think that's good advice. And when I was an undergrad, it was just go talk to the professor.
Right.
You may have a hard time getting an answer to a question they covered in class, but if you get them started on their research, they'll talk for the rest of the day about that. I also noticed that your lab has its own website where you talk about some of the things you do and list some of the students you've had involved in research. Is that a good source to go to or not? Yes,
definitely. So I try to maintain my own website, and center my research, my students' work. And most faculty will have their own website talking about their individual research from there. Yeah.
I noticed one thing that your website has. You've got some photographs of the students who have been working for you, and it's a very diverse group of students. Can you tell us a little bit about the importance of diversity in engineering and in biomedical engineering in particular?
Absolutely. I really love working with, students from different backgrounds. I think a lot of them are kind of drawn to me, just, my personality. And, we try to have fun. So it's good to have a group of diverse students. And then also getting different perspectives, so everyone's going to bring their own experience to it. And they may think of a way to work out a problem that I didn't think of, from their own experience or something from their past. So it's always good to work with different students and also work with different majors as well.
That's what I always say. It's really trying to get that diversity of thought and diversity of opinion into the lab and into basically any aspect of work. So,
absolutely.
So that's a very good. I know biological engineering, biomedical engineering is a very interesting field, but also one students sometimes struggle with trying to figure out exactly what am I going to do. I know a large number will end up going to medical school, but there are also opportunities for those who don't want to go to medical school. Can you talk about what someone might be able to do with a biomedical engineering degree outside of medical or vet school?
Yeah, so we have students that have gone on to work at research hospitals, gone to work at national labs, working at biomedical device companies, and then we've also had students go on to law school to study patent law. As faculty members, we're always trying to find that big thing that we can patent and start our own company. And so when I work with a lawyer, I want someone that has some insights on what actually the science and the technology of it. So we always encourage students to kind of open their minds of what they can do with that degree.
It's very interesting you mentioned law school. I don't think many people think of engineers as being ones to go into law school, but we do have some, and they seem to do very well. Do you think it's just the general education they get from engineering, or is it something else that makes them good at doing law?
I would say the curiosity. With everything we do, you have a question that you're trying to answer, you do an experiment, and then you have to defend your answer, right? So that's lawyer.
Yeah, that's true. And I think being organized and having good logical thought processes helps as well. So sort of got two questions here for you. One would be for current undergraduate students. What advice do you have for them to help them be successful in college? What do they need to do to be successful?
Current undergraduate students, advice that I always give is don't be afraid. Obviously, you're in college and some things are going to be hard. Some things are going to be tougher than others, but don't be afraid to try new things just because it's hard. Build your community. I love to tell students to treat college as like a microcosm of, the world, because here you have different cultures, people from all across the United States that, they all come from their, high school, their small community, but now you're here with so many different people. So try to explore, get to know about different people, and then try everything. Try all the different student organizations, get involved in research. One of my biggest points of advice I always tell students is never waste your summers. It's fun to go back home and lifeguard for the summer, but you've missed the opportunity to get a research experience, do an internship, get experience in a company, and then also kind of get to know more about what you like and what you don't like to help you make your decision after graduation.
And that's good advice, particularly since we have such a strong co-op program that
Absolutely.
Co-ops and interns, lots of opportunities for students to get some experience. So now expanding on that a little bit, what advice do you have for a student who's not yet in college, maybe high school or even middle school? What should they be doing to prepare themselves to pursue a degree in engineering?
That's so far from where I am right now. I don't want to tell my age, but high school students work hard and get good grades, because one, getting accepted is going to be your main thing, work to the standardized tests. We still are working on if they're going to be a thing in the future, but now they're still here. So you have to prepare for those. And then also get engaged, because of course, we want students that, have good grades, but we also want students that have been active in sports and activities and leadership roles.
Okay. Well, thank you, Dr. Simpson. We're about out of time. It's been a real pleasure having you here with us today. Thank you for all you're doing and to make the Bagley College better and helping our students. And for the rest of you, thank you for joining us for this episode of Momentum. And we hope you'll come back for our next episode.